Okay, class, today we're going to actually look at the last linear equation that we need to learn in Chapter 8. And this last equation is called point-slope form. And here's your equation. And again, it's the third one that you have to memorize for this section. But as we see as we go through here then, it says a point and the slope of a line are given. Write an equation in point-slope form. So if you look up here, we've got this little idea of what's going on here? Let's go here. Of y prime and x prime. And we're going to see what happens with that, okay, is the idea, okay, that we need to take the point that they give me right here, and this is going to be x prime, y prime. And again, the idea there is, hey, that's in the ordered pair, that's my x position, my y position, and then the slope of 2, we're going to plug that in for m. So basically all we're doing is plugging the numbers back in where they go. So if I look up here and I'm going to use the point 5,9 and the slope of 2, we've got y minus y prime. Well, who's in the y position? 9. Equals m. Well, our slope is 2. Okay? And then we've got x minus x prime. Well, 5 was in the x position of our ordered pair. And that's all we do. Okay? We just take the x and y of our ordered pair along with the slope and we plug them in to the appropriate place in point-slope form. So let's see if you can do number 2. Okay? If you can do number 2, let's go ahead and set it up. So remember, this is my x position. This is the y position in my ordered pair. Remember, x first and then y. And this is m. So let's go ahead and plug everything in. Here's what we've got. Y minus 4 equals 5 times x. Now, do you notice it's going to be minus negative 2? And so I'm just going to go ahead and write plus 2. Okay? X minus negative 2 is the same thing as saying plus 2. All right? So that's what we're going to do there. Now, let me see. I got issues going on here, so let's see if I can. Not what I wanted. All right. So, now let's go to the next slide and see what happens. Now, the reason we bring this third equation into play is because we've got to be able to quickly go from one linear equation to the other. So if you notice, it says we can use the slope-intercept form when we know the slope and the intercept, and we can use point-slope form when we know the point and a slope. So you've got to really sit back and think it through. What information did I give you, and how can you use that information to go to one of the other forms of a line? So let's look here. If you notice on my slide, I went ahead and I gave you point-slope form. Okay, here we are. Now, let's go ahead and take this point-slope form to slope-intercept. Now, do you remember what the equation looks like for slope-intercept? Yeah, here it is, right here. Y equals mx plus b. So we've got y minus 3 equals 2/3 x plus 1. So here's my equation in point-slope form. And I need to make it look like y equals mx plus b. So if I look at that equation written there, what should I do next? What does order of operations say that I need to do next? Yeah, we should take care of our distributive property. So we've got y minus 3 equals, well, 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. 2/3 times 1 is 2/3. Now, if you look there, we've almost got y alone. Remember, we've got to get y by itself to be in slope-intercept. Who needs to move? Yes, we need to move that 3. What's my inverse operation? Yeah, let's go ahead and add 3 to both sides. Now, what's the situation? Did you realize that I've got to add fractions? We've got 2/3 plus 3. Now, you can't just tell me 3 and 2/3. Remember, we don't ever put mixed numbers in our equations. We need to add this. So in order to add fractions, I have to have a common denominator. So what am I going to turn this 3 into? Well, did you notice my common denominator has to be 3? So we're going to make that 9/3. And when I do that, then we've got y equals 2/3 x. What's 2/3 plus 9/3? Well, now that we have a common denominator, 2 plus 9 is 11/3. And that, my friends, is the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. Okay? So again, the whole idea of this point-slope equation is to be able to quickly move between one linear equation and the other. Now, let's go ahead and let's take the same point-slope form. Let's take the same point-slope form. We've got y minus 3 equals 2/3 x plus 1. Okay, I'm back up here where we started. We're going to start here with this, but this time I want us to go to standard form. Do you remember what standard form looks like? Okay, well, remember, standard form looks like this: ax plus by equals c. We know we have a and b on x and y on one side and the constant on the other. Now, there's one other thing we've got to remember about standard form. Remember what a and b cannot be? That's right, I can't have a fraction. Okay, I can't have, can I write that? Can't have a fraction. And if you look there, my slope this time happens to be a fraction. Okay, so what do you think we need to do first? What did we learn? We got a fraction and we need to get rid of it. Fractions, boo hiss. Yes, very nicely done. That means we need to multiply by the LCD for elimination. So if I'm going to eliminate the fraction, what am I going to multiply everything by? Well, if I look, there's really only one denominator, and that's 3, so that's got to be my LCD. So let's go ahead and multiply everything by LCD. So here we've got 3 times y is 3y. 3 times -3 is -9. Now look, what's 3 times 2/3? Did you realize my 3's would cancel out if I put this over 1? So now I've got 2 times x plus 1. Are we in standard form yet? No. Let's go ahead and take care of our distributive property. 3y minus 9 equals 2x plus 2. Now I need to move some things around. Okay, need to move some things around. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and subtract 2 over here. All right, and so that gives me 3y minus 11 equals 2x. And now all we need to do is move the 3y over. Let's subtract 3y over. And so now I've got, if I subtract 3y, we've got -11 equals 2x minus 3y. Now, we can just flip those around using our commutative property if need be. So that's what we do. So the nice little handy idea of this point slope forms, we can quickly take it and we can convert it to slope intercept form, or we can take it and we can do the math and we can convert it to standard form, and it's just a pretty quick way to get through to each one. Now, we've got one more thing to look at in section A2, and it's the idea of perpendicular lines, okay? Perpendicular lines. Now, what do we know about perpendicular lines? Yeah, we say perpendicular lines cross, okay? The math word is they intersect. Now I'm going to put this up here. This is actually the symbol for perpendicular. It looks like this. And you know, our x and y axis are perpendicular lines. Sorry, they intersect at the origin, or 0, 0. So here's the idea. When two lines are perpendicular, their slopes have a product of -1. So it means that their slopes are opposite reciprocals. Now, another way to say that word opposite, we could also say negative reciprocals. All right, so we've got to figure out what that means. If I had 3, what is the negative reciprocal of 3? Well, the easiest way to figure that out, what's the reciprocal of 3? Well, the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3. And what's the opposite of positive 3? -3. So 3 and -1/3 are opposite reciprocals. And again, if we multiply those together, the 3's would cancel, and we would end up with a product of -1. Let's try another pair. Well, I'm having issues today. All right, let's go ahead and try another pair. All right, let's say I gave you 1/2. What is the negative reciprocal of 1/2? Well, take 1/2, flip it. What do we get? 2. And the opposite sign is -2. So I kind of like to use the idea to find the negative reciprocal. We change the sign from positive or negative, and we flip it. Change the sign, flip it. That's how we get a negative reciprocal. Now, here's the battle that we need to fight, unfortunately. Let's look at my equation here. Here's what we got to do. Okay? It says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. So we know it's got to look like y equals mx plus b when we're done. From the line through 6, 2, so they gave me a point. I've got an ordered pair, but they want it perpendicular to this line. Well, we just learned that lines that are perpendicular to each other have their slopes are negative reciprocals. So the first thing I have to do is I have to figure out, hey, what's the slope of this line? Well, how do we do that? What's the easiest way to do that? Well, the easiest way to do that is to put this one in slope-intercept form. Let's rearrange the furniture. We've got -2y equals, and again, we're going to move 3x to the other side by subtracting, plus 7. Oh, we still don't have y alone yet, so we're going to have to divide everything by -2. So y equals, did you realize we got a negative divided by a negative? 3/2 x minus 7/2. So what is the slope of this line? Well, the slope of this line is 3/2. But remember, they want the perpendicular line. So we have to figure out, if I want the perpendicular slope of that line, what is the negative reciprocal of 3/2? That's right. Remember, we said we've got to change the sign, so it's going to go from positive to negative and flip my number. So -2/3 is the slope we're going to use. So now we have a point. They gave me the point, and it was 6, -2. And the perpendicular slope, I'm going to use my little perpendicular sign. The perpendicular slope is going to be 2/3. Okay, so now we need to use our point-slope form. Remember, here's our equation to help you remember. So we're going to plug the point and the perpendicular slope into that formula. So here we go. We've got y minus, well, y prime. Remember, that's going to be plus 2 when I look over here. Equals m, well, -2/3 is the perpendicular slope, so that's what we have to use, and then x minus 6. Okay, now let's go ahead and take care of our distributive property. So we've got -2/3 times x is -2/3 x. -2/3 times -6, That's going to give me positive 4. And then we've still got this y plus 2 out in front. Okay, remember, slope-intercept form, I got to get y alone. So who do I need to move to get y alone? Yeah, we got to get rid of this 2. My inverse operation, we're going to subtract 2. What I do to one side, I do to the other. So final answer, y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. That is the equation of the line that is perpendicular to 3x minus 2y equals 7. Definitely long and drawn out and a lot of different steps as we go through. So we're going to be careful and we'll practice a few more of those as we go. Great job.